Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Well, welcome everybody. We will get this informational meeting for September 3rd going. We'll call the meeting to order and open up with City Council open discussion for everybody who's here. Okay. We'll give her about 10 seconds and we'll move on. I think we hear her. All right, we'll get out of the presentation. So we've got Sam is here, the pedestrian plan. Sam and Jeff Schmidt. Are they here too, or they're not here?
Well, they're in the open house. We'll be right there. They're right outside.
Okay. Anybody know any jokes?
I heard one I'll share.
Okay.
We did senior pictures yesterday for my son now that he's old enough, and the photographer was trying to make him laugh because he has this less than nice smile for pictures. He's not photogenic. So the photographer said, "Do you know why T-Rexes don't clap?"
Can't wait to hear.
Because they're all dead.
Yes, we've
Mr.
been killing time till you
Did
got
I,
here, so
oh, did
Councilor
I miss
Staley.
did I miss open discussion?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh. So I have two things to talk about. I just had to take a trip. I see some Strongtown people have wandered in. Thank you, welcome. So I have two things I wanted to mention. First of all, I wanted to thank our Parks Department, Don Kearney, because we've worked with him with our staff, Dave Bixler in particular, our budget analyst, and we have come to an agreement with Mr. Don Kearney to do a pilot program with Project Trim. He's going to take a 4-block area in the Hilltop area and do it free, and they're going to track the costs for this. They're going to send out a notification to all the residents in that area, alerting them that this will be done for them, and we'll see how much that costs and how long it takes. It's a program that I have been rallying to renovate for many years, because I would like to see the city of Sioux Falls maintain their own trees in the boulevard, like they do in Brookings, Aberdeen, Fargo, Kansas City, and many other areas of the country, that those trees would be taken care of by a forestry department. But that's not going to happen right now. We are looking at just tracking how much energy that would take. And let me also say that I had met with our mayor, Paul Tenhagen, during the campaign a year ago, or now it's a year and a half ago, and had proposed to him using the labor from our penitentiary workforce to help with Project Trim. And I know we've been utilizing some of that workforce. I don't know that it's been used necessarily for Project Trim, but I think there's ways of doing this that we could provide a service for our people without putting that fee onto their backs. So that's one thing. A second thing I wanted to tell the public is that, put it on your calendar, Saturday, October 5th, we are bringing back the Neighborhood Summit. Mayor Huther, to his credit, he instigated the Neighborhood Summit years ago. It was on a Saturday. He would bring the neighborhood associations, neighborhood watch groups together and they would have a little breakfast, and then he would bring in speakers and get input from these different parts of our town. And so I contacted Councilor Brecky a few months ago. I said, hey, what do you think about this? And she was on board, and I mentioned it to the council as a possible partner in funding for this. And she and I took this idea to Mayor Tenhagen, and he liked it. And initially, he was going to pay half, and I was going to see if the council would. If not, I was going to pay myself out of my own funds half to it's about $1,100. But he came back and said he would fully fund this. So we're going to have our neighborhood summit on October 5th from 8 to 12 at the Ann Zabel Theater at the Orpheum. So mark your calendar for that. And Clint, since you're here, I just want to tell you that we talked about you today. And I saved your Facebook shout out to me on the table tennis idea. I met with several of my council members today and pitched the idea to purchase 3 of these in our CIP. And I met with the park department director, and he liked it. So I think that's going to become an amendment in our budget in 2 weeks. So I was going to actually reach out to you and ask you to come and testify. On behalf of that, we're going to get 3 of these, hopefully strategically place them in our different parks, and I think it's a great idea. And when I put it on Facebook, which Facebook's a great way of connecting, but when I shared your things, Clint, it went ballistic on my Facebook page. People really liked it. So just wanted to let you know. Heads up on that.
All right, thank you. Good everywhere else? Okay, I think we're ready for the presentations now, if everybody's here. So first one is on the pedestrian plan with Sam and Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Sam Trebelcock, City Planning and Development. To kick off our pedestrian plan, update of our pedestrian plan, we thought the best way to kind of do that is to have an open house, allow the public to come in and talk a little bit about their interests, and also to give them an opportunity to participate. So you're on the ground level of that. Our open house started at 4 o'clock today. Most of the people at the open house are probably in the audience right now. And we thought this was a good way to give everybody an opportunity to kind of see what's going on, and for you also. So when you're looking at a pedestrian plan, there's a lot of different buzzwords out there when you're talking about different pedestrian and friendly type of situations in planning. It could be walkability, it could be complete streets, it could be vulnerable users, equity, mixed-use development, transit-oriented development, active transportation, alternative transportation users. Sometimes you hear the term Vision Zero, livable cities, sustainability, accessibility. All these type of things we want to take into consideration as we look at and update our plan. So I want to make sure that that's something that everybody understands. Our current plan was developed in 2006, so it's certainly been, I think, due time to take a look at it again. And the goals of the plan, there's 2 goals and there's several objectives that you see right here on the screen. Goal 1 is define methods to create a safe, accommodating, and attractive atmosphere for all pedestrians. And then the second goal is to educate the public about pedestrian rules and standards to help them make informed decisions and input. Well, throughout this entire plan, we developed, with the help of a stakeholder group and then citizens and council, a list of policies that we worked on since 2006. So what has changed since 2006? So what have we been working on? Number 1 is the adoption of the Shape Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan. There were certainly some mixed use things that we looked at within there and some pedestrian things that I think helped in that area. The adoption of the Shape Places zoning ordinance. One of the things that we have, and you see it in yellow right here, was a policy to take in consideration pedestrian connections. And Shape Places has a specific section that says you have to ensure on businesses that there's a connection from the public sidewalk into the entrance of the business. And so that's something that we did effectuate in that zoning ordinance. There's a complete streets resolution that we put together and finished and brought to council. There was new arterial sidewalks are put in every year as a part of the CIP. There's new bicycle trails and pedestrian connections. There was an update of our subdivision ordinance where we looked at the increasing pedestrian connectivity within subdivisions. We made a requirement that ensured that blocks can't be any longer than a quarter mile without some kind of pedestrian connectivity. Certainly, we updated our bicycle plan, and certainly bicycles and pedestrians have some things that are in common, including future bicycle trails that obviously pedestrians will also utilize, and also connectivity that bicycles are also looking at. There's the sidewalk ADA transition plan and the sidewalk GIS inventory that I talk about, I think, on the next slide here. Really an important feature here is the work that's been done in engineering to update and in GIS and updating. And actually, it's the first time there's been a full sidewalk inventory throughout the city. One of the recommendations of the 2006 plan was to finish a sidewalk master plan. Well, work had to be done to find out what we actually have in our city before we can actually prioritize it and determine when and how we should be putting in our sidewalks. So that was something that we think we can take the next step on since this has been completed. Also, there's been, as I mentioned, facilities that have been completed, and this is just showing some of those facilities, including the one on the bottom is the extension of the bike trail out to the west at the confluence. That's been a significant feature for pedestrians also, to be able to get across the river. Also, you can see on the upper left-hand corner there, that's a connection to the fairgrounds over on Madison Street. And all these kind of things we're always looking at from kind of a complete street perspective. The one on the upper right-hand corner is a connection as done on Maple Street that's providing the connections once the trail is available, and something that we were working on and planning for up into that northwest area near the new McGovern Middle School area. One thing that we also worked on was I mentioned the Complete Streets resolution, but we do for every single project now is we have each one of those projects go through a Complete Streets checklist. And you can see some of the results of that, including the project here on the right-hand side of the screen, which is the Maple Street project that included the first trail, or excuse me, the cycle track. Had to think about that for a second. The first cycle track that we have here in Sioux Falls. And that's something we also looked at as part of the Complete Streets process. So, now what will the plan include? The sidewalk master plan will certainly include sidewalk priorities and for new sidewalks, for retrofit sidewalks, for maintenance. All those are very important for us to take a look at, and then also updated policies. Certainly things need to be looked at since 2006 to look at that, and then also recommendations for new ordinances, new design standards. All of those things are put together in that one document, and then move from there. Now the plan update process starts today with the kickoff open house. We also have available, and it's available on a computer out in the overflow room, is a pedestrian plan survey. That'll be available during the month of September. And then we're also asking for applications for a pedestrian plan advisory committee. Those applications will be received during the month of September. We would anticipate somewhere 5, 6, 7 different committee meetings to help us put this plan together, to get stakeholder comment as we get the nuts and bolts of it put together. Public involvement of the plan will go beyond that, of course. Before we move forward to council, we would also look for another open house to get full input from the public, and also have it available on the website once we get to a draft plan. And then the plan we would expect to have in draft form sometime in the spring of 2020, and look for your adoption sometime after that. With that, I would take any questions that you have.
Any questions, councilors? Looks like you're getting off easy today.
But, and I would certainly, again, if you do have more questions, and you have some time, we'll have the open house. It'll be, until 6 o'clock tonight, and we'll be in the overflow room, if you want to come and join us.
Okay, thank you. Somebody, oh, so I almost forgot, public input. Do we have anybody who has public input on our subject today? Welcome.
I'm Kathy Brachtelsbauer, and I'm just here to ask you to give a very high priority to walkability in Sioux Falls. My husband says to mention that it's really important for people's health. So the health of our city is really going to be dependent on whether we can get people walking, riding the bike, riding the bus. Some of those things are so important for our health. And Lord knows we need to improve the health of the people in our city. And then also they're so important, all those for the environment and health of our planet. And we're all responsible. And so this is one way that cities weigh in and can have a big impact on what's happening with the environment. And we know that's affecting a lot of people, and it's just a matter of time before it hits each one of us in some way. So I just want to mention that, and also that so much more can be done, because I know we've been in other cities, and you go up to the crosswalk and you push the button, and you don't have to wait so long as sometimes here in Sioux Falls for that walk light to come up, for the traffic lights to change. And so I know when I try to cross 33rd in Minnesota, I know I've called about this, and I think they keep fixing it or something, so I don't know if the equipment's not good or if it's just hard to keep it working. Sometimes you touch the little thing and you don't hear any click or beep or anything, and you think, must not be working. And so I call in, and he says, okay, we'll fix it. So maybe the next time it works, but then just this past Sunday, couldn't hear anything. And then you wait and wait a long time to cross the street. And here it's, especially because that was early Sunday morning, and so it was like not much traffic, but you had to wait. And so a lot of that kind of thing can be worked on in this pedestrian plan, I hope. And then a friend of mine says, oh, you're going, be sure to mention something about people running red lights in their cars, because that doesn't mix with people crossing the street. And the people crossing the street might be right, but we, of course, don't want them to be dead right. And so that's something she said to be sure to mention. So a lot more can be done, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of attention and a high priority for this, because it's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Welcome. Like your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Jordan Deffenbaugh. I wanted to mention, I saw this a few weeks ago. Ottawa, Canada, is looking to become the most livable mid-sized city in North America. And part of their effort is to do a 25-year growth plan to make 15-minute neighborhoods. So how they want to accomplish this, I'll read from the article here. To reach that lofty goal, the 25-year growth blueprint unveiled Thursday in Ottawa City Hall is hard focused on urban intensification instead of sprawl, creating residential hubs where people can get most of their daily destinations, schools, grocery stores, public transit, parks, libraries, within a 15-minute walk of their homes. And I know we have some examples in the core of the city, but if there was an effort to really figure out how do we create more intense hub and spoke models, and it's not just, say, downtown core, but like on the periphery. So I figured, since there's somebody I think this is from CBC News, there are cities that are doing these things, and if we look to them, they're looking at the likes of Copenhagen and Portland to see those sorts of ideas, those sorts of design approaches. So I just figured I'd float that over. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Are you coming? Okay. Oh, hello there. I'll pull the microphones down for you.
Charles Santee. And I'd like someone to remind the sidewalk people that according to the city ordinance and the ADA, that the sidewalk is continuous across driveways and streets and driveways and streets and also across storm drains. And they need to be considered continuously. Because if you complain about a storm drain, it's somebody else's department. If you complain about a sidewalk, it's not the sidewalk department. I mean, if you complain about a driveway, it's not the sidewalks department. But they all need to be considered a part of the sidewalk. And for me, the most dangerous intersection in town is 49th and Kiwanis, because everybody wants to make a right turn on red, and if you're coming tooling down the Kiwanis from the west, nobody is looking to the west as they're making their right turn, and if you just happen to be starting into the intersection, you get real hairy. I've had about 6 near misses in the last 5 years in that intersection. And one of them is not going to be a nice near miss. It's going to be a painful one of these days. I'd like to have something done about it, like no right turns on red there.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, I'm Greg Boris, and I had the privilege of being on the 2006 pedestrian plan work group, and glad to see it's happening again. I think we have to keep in mind, and you can see this a lot in the CIP, talk about the safe and efficient movement of vehicles and pedestrians. Unfortunately, it's the vehicles that win. And as we look ahead toward pedestrians, we have to make sure that they win because they're at a disadvantage, much as Charles just talked about. So safety trumps efficiency. Safety should be our top priority.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Lynn Eck. I'd like to address one specific area. I live up in the north side, and it's bothered me for years that there's no sidewalks once you go past the spillway. You get up on North Drive, as soon as you get to the spillway, all the sidewalks in there. And since they've started making the businesses up there put in sidewalks further north, they've got it down to about a 3-block area that isn't paved now, and it's really frustrating. It's gone on for years up there that there's no connection to the north side. I feel like we might as well be a different city from you guys where we're connected that way. And if there's any doubt about the need for that area up there, go up there anytime in the wintertime and you can see the trails that have people been trudging through those 3 blocks in a cornfield and a construction area there all winter long trying to get to and fro and to the bike path and stuff like that. But anyway, that area is sat neglected for years and years and years. I'm gonna let this gentleman here know about it there and things, but it sure be nice if something got done to connect the north side to the rest of town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jaron DeWitt. I'd just like to thank the city council and particularly traffic engineering, Heath. I've been working with him this summer on a project on Bonson Avenue. We've seen top speeds on the 85th percentile, 43 miles an hour down Bonson, which is a 30-mile speed limit. Just last month, they installed bump outs near Harvey Dunn and near Cleveland Elementary. Seen drastic improvements in that 1-block area. And so I'd like to keep encouraging stuff like that to happen, permanent bump outs like that, and reduction of the streets to make it safer for people to be pedestrians and get around actively. And I think it'll probably come up as part of this project and part of the pedestrian plan, but I think it's time for a city our size to consider having a full-time bike and pedestrian coordinator. Heath and Sam do a great job, but they get pulled a lot of different ways. And so it would be nice to see somebody dedicated to improving pedestrian and bike traffic around this town for all of the reasons everybody else has mentioned, the planet, our health, and safety, of course, being number one. So just consider that as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, councilors. Thank you for having this discussion that we're having today about
Can you introduce
pedestrian
yourself,
safety.
please?
George Hamilton,
George.
All Saints Neighborhood Association. I want to address a couple of areas of concern in the All Saints Neighborhood Association. And one of the things I want to tie it to is downtown Sioux Falls and certain things that are implemented by downtown Sioux Falls to slow traffic, make things more walkable, and see if some of those ideas couldn't be transferred into the core neighborhood. I was informed that one of the things that happened on 2nd Avenue over near the post office just to the north of Sunshine was a project that Joe Batchelor spearheaded with AARP, where they painted the street, brought out and put the big planting urns and stuff, you know. And one of the things previous, when I had spoken with traffic and planning and stuff in our neighborhood, we were told we couldn't do anything to slow down the traffic, to narrow the lanes or everything and stuff, you know. And I'm only speaking of Dakota Avenue, Main Avenue, and Phillips Avenue as it runs between 14th and 18th. And the main problem that we have at Phillips and 17th and Dakota's 17th is there is no crosswalk. There is a north-south crosswalk when you're going down Phillips and when you're going down Dakota, but there is no east-west crosswalk. So when we have the big retirement home right there and stuff, you know, they come out, the kids are playing everything and stuff. Once you get to that intersection, then you're taking your safety in your own hands trying to get across Phillips to the east or get across Dakota to the west, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, that intersection that was developed many years ago and has never been changed and stuff, you know, it is not ADA friendly by any means whatsoever, because when you come off the intersection right there at the corner of 17th and Phillips where you're on the property of Touchmark, it comes down the hill so fast and there's not one of the ADA pads that has been installed, anything. And that street is prone to washout and debris right there whenever it rains and stuff. And the same way that on the Dakota Avenue side, if you're at Touchmark, the road was specifically angled for some reason more than 30 years ago that it is a curve around, not a come down and turn around. So as cars come down the hill heading to the north off 18th on Dakota to turn into Touchmark, everybody just cruises around the corner. But right as soon as you turn the corner, there's a parking garage where everybody goes up under Touchmark and everything and stuff. So you can come out and see where people slide because they don't see somebody's pulling out, because this garage has a garage door on it that goes up and down. You have people getting off work, you have residents returning and everything and stuff, you know. And that was just one of the things that if we were allowed, you know, unless I was given bad information, to be able to paint the street, put a thing out there that would cause vehicles to slow down and not just dive into that corner and stuff, you know, and allow that we have a walkway that goes from east to west, not only north to south. Because the residents in the neighborhood, and originally the residents in Touchmark, we have people who bring them out, aides with wheelchairs, taking them everything and stuff. And it's very hard to navigate these two intersections right there and stuff. So as we talk about, you know, some of the things that happen in downtown, because we have really strived to make downtown walkable. We've did cutouts, we've rearranged parking and everything and stuff. But I think You know, if we could transfer some of that into our neighborhoods in the core right here and stuff, it would really make a big difference because we get a lot of foot traffic with events that go on downtown. People park in the neighborhood and walk into downtown.
Thank you.
Councilors, Clint Brown. This summer, I had about a third of the days of a week or a month, I had my 4 children at the office with me at 9th and Main because their mom also works, and so they would come to the office with me. And as 4 children might want to do, they like to go over to Nancy's store, the toy store, when they're sick of watching Netflix or whatever they did to stay out of my hair. And my 3rd child is a special needs kiddo. And she has sensory processing disorder, so she looks normal and might act normal when you're around her, but she's absorbing the world differently than maybe you or I. And I will say with great confidence that the crosswalks in downtown, though they might meet regulations because of maybe a misunderstanding or a cultural thing with drivers and walkers, is not a safe scenario. I don't think I was fortunate enough to have 1 week pass where I didn't send a text to my friend Joe Batchelor, sometimes with profanity, that I had just been in the crosswalk holding hands with my 4 kids, and come close enough to a vehicle turning on me when I have the right of way and the light that I could strike the car if I wanted to kick it or punch it as a father might want to when they're holding hands of 4 children, sometimes with the wagon. This is confusing because one of the things you navigate with a special needs child is to teach her how she's going to navigate the world independently. So you really count on something like a crosswalk light to tell her, hey, when that light turns, that's when you're supposed to go. Because she would never figure out the coordination of who has a right turn, right away, a left turn, especially being an 8-year-old. If you don't understand driver's laws and already the world's confusing, you would need those lights to indicate that it's your turn. Though that's not the case. I don't think once I ever let my 2 older children walk my 8-year-old to the toy store, just because she would never be able to self-navigate when a car may or may not be choosing that as a time for them to go as well. So I don't have a solution other than maybe hiring the Lincoln Marching Band to escort my children across a crosswalk in downtown when they want to cross the street. But I think I would be eager as a father to find some solutions that are safer than something as basic as just crossing when the light says is something that at least my kiddos could predict. So thank you.
Thank you. Is that everybody? I think normally you only, well, if you got something quick, go ahead. Usually it's 1 per time, but.
One thing that might help is if somebody would start running some PSA ads that pedestrians have the right of way in crosswalks. I had a little old lady chew me out for not paying attention. I was crossing the driveway at McDonald's. And as the gentleman just remarked, right turn on reds while people are in the crosswalks. They don't realize that the pedestrians in the crosswalks do have the right of way.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Somebody wants to. Councilor Neitzer.
I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of any public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee. The term employee does not include any independent contractor pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 subpart 1.
Second.
Okay. We can have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale? Starr? Yes. Staley?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move into executive session. Thank you.